Hello everyone, my name is Tanvir Jan Swapnil and my student ID is 20173228. So now today I am going to present our assessment 3, which is our final assessment, and this is an individual assessment as well, and the assessment is all about the case study of SportX company. So as you can see on the first slide of this presentation, which is the 5 most valuable asset of SportX, in which you can see the first one is customer database, second one is order database, third one is product database, and next one is employee database, and the fifth one is e-commerce website. So let's move on to the next slide, which is weighted factor analysis worksheet. And here you can see the SI, which is sensitivity of information, and CO, which means criticality of operations, and then BV, that means business value, and LC, which is legal and compliance requirements. So as you can see, the weighted scores here for customer database, which is 80, and order database is 80 as well, whereas product database is 54 and employee database is 72, and on e-commerce website that is 76. So let's move on to the next slide, which is 2 threads for each asset. So the first one is customer database. So first one is data breach. Unauthorized individual gain asset to customer database and is still sensitive customer data link, names, payment details, and addresses. On the and the another one is insider threat. An employee of SportX with customer database access intentionally leak to or sell customer information to a third party. So on order database, the first threat can be data manipulation. The unauthorized person will gain access to the order database and change the order details, like changing the price and product quantities, which can lead to the financial loss of SportX. And another one is denial of service attack, in which the cyber criminals can use the DOS attack on this order database server that causes the problem of unavailability and disprinting the process of order and fulfillment. So the third one is product database, and the threat can be unauthorized access, and another one is data occupation, corruption as well. So the fourth one is employee database, where is the threat can be insider threat and the social engineering threat. So on e-commerce website, the first threat can be distributed denial of service attack, and the second one can be payment fraud. So let's move on to our next slide, which is vulnerabilities for the asset. So here you can see the same thing as a customer database, and the vulnerability is weak unauthorized control, and the description can be the customer database may have weak control for unauthentication, like easily guessable password or leak of multi-factor authentication. This vulnerability can increase the risk of unwanted access to the database and data breaches. And on order database, the vulnerability can be lack of data encryption. This database may leak the proper data encryption during transmission and without encryption. The sensitive data may be compromised, so it can increase the data breach risk and information threat. On product database, the vulnerability is inadequate management. So this database may have inadequate patch management practices that can lead to vulnerabilities in the product database. This can allow the hacker to access the database, can execute malicious actions. And the next one can be employee database. And in employee database, the vulnerabilities is insider threat. This database is suspensible or insider threats, such as employees can misuse or leak the data, and this can result in the explosion of the sensitive information of employees. So on e-commerce website, the vulnerabilities can be cross-site scripting, which is called as XSS. The e-commerce website for SportX may have some vulnerabilities such as cross-site scripting that can allow the attacks to inject malicious code into the website, and that can lead to the website unauthorized access to the customer data, theft of the customer credentials, and access to the websites. So if we move on to the next slide, and that is threats, vulnerabilities, access worksheet. As you can see on the screen, and on data, the first threat is data breaches, and the second one is unauthorized access, third one is data manipulation, fourth one is insider threat, and the last one is cross-site scripting. So for the data breach, the vulnerability is weak authentication controls. For unauthorized access, it is lack of data encryption, and for data manipulation, it is inadequate patch management, as we discussed on our previous slide. And on insider threat, the vulnerabilities is also insider threats. And for cross-site scripting, the vulnerabilities is also cross-site scripting as well. So you guys can see the impact of data breaches, which is 4, and unauthorized access is 3, in which the likelihood is totally different, like the opposite. So the for data breaches, the likelihood is 3 and unauthorized access is for 4. And on data manipulation, the impact and likelihood is the same, which is 3, and on insider threat, the impact is 4 and the likelihood is 2. And the cross-site scripting, the impact is 4 and the likelihood is 3. So let's talk about the treatment strategy for each risk. So for data breaches, the strategy is strengthen authentication controls. And if we justify this, so then it will be implementation of a strong authentication or multiple authentication can reduce the risk of unauthorized access. The controls such as update access privileges, regularly reviewing, implementing the multi-factor authentication, and enforcing the complex password. If we talk about unauthorized access, the strategy will be implement the data encryption, and the justification will be by implementing strong data encryption, sports can project the integrity and confidentiality of the ordered database. This will ensure that in case of unauthorized access happens, the data will remain unusable and unreadable for the hacker. If we talk about data manipulation, the strategy will be improve patch management practices, and the justification can be regularly applying security patches and update to the database system can help to address the vulnerabilities and prevent exploitation. SportX can reduce the likelihood of data manipulation into incidents and ensure the accuracy and integrity of the database. If we talk about insider threat, the strategy will be implement an access control and monitoring, and the justification will be by implementing strict access control and monitoring measures to the database. Insider threat can be mitigated. This includes gaining access based on the principle of at least privilege and implementing a monitoring and auditing system to detect suspicious activities. SportX. So the next slide is about make the HQ network secure by design. So as you can see on the screen, to make the SportX network security by design, some measures need to be taken to ensure all over security posture. So the first one can be network segmentation, which implement network segmentation to divide the network of headquarter into separate security VLANs. And the next one can be secure network architecture, in which design the network architecture with full security by following the principle of least privilege and defense in depth approach. Next one can be access control and privilege management, and the next one can be secure remote access, and then network monitoring, then regular patching and updates. After that, indicate response plan, and then regular security audits and assessment. Okay, so the next one is possible protection mechanism. So some possible protection mechanism for the SportX are can be firewall, which deploy the firewall at the perimeter of the network between the internet and network to monitor and control the incoming and outgoing network traffic on SportX server. Then the next one is a virtual private network, then data encryption, then multi-factor authentication, then security information and event management, then regular patching and vulnerability management, then security awareness and training. And the last one can be incident response plan, which is much more important for SportX, which can develop the incident response plan that outline the steps that are required to be taken in case of a security breaches. This includes the roles and responsibilities of members. So here you can see the references